We are going to ask our next guest to do the exact same thing. Noah Gross joins us from Austin, Texas. Noah, first of all, we'll talk about last game very briefly before we spin it forward with the Longhorns. I had Texas going into the game against the Georgia Bulldogs. We saw the way it played out. Kirby was aggressive. It just felt like that Georgia owned that game from the trenches standpoint, and then obviously on the scoreboard there as well. What'd you make of Texas as they went to Athens and suffered a loss that surprised me? I don't know if it surprised you.
Gerhard, love talking to you every week because, sometimes I get predictions wrong, but it seems like every time I talk to you, you at least own up to your prediction.
Oh, I do. 100%. Because I'm going to stand on the top of Mount Everest and gloat when I go 5-0 on my picks. I got to do it. I got to do it the other way around as well. It's only fair is fair.
That's much appreciated because I also had Texas this last week. To me, a couple big takeaways from the Georgia game. First, Kirby has Sark's number, which is interesting because they're such good friends and they're so similar. But Texas, like Sark talked about before the game, he knew there was going to be some trickery, something Kirby had up his sleeve, and the onside kick was it, and it worked to perfection. And I think it was extremely interesting in that moment when they had the onside kick because there was a shot of Kirby right before where he's just kind of like, I can't believe we're actually doing this. And then the shot of him right after, like, I can't believe it worked, and celebrating like that. And it just totally spiraled for Texas after that. And to me, that kind of, the way it went for Texas after that onside kick kind of shows me where this team is as far as the last couple of years when Texas was one of the final 4 teams remaining. They made the college football playoff, and it was 4 teams, and they made the semifinals last year in the 12-team format. They were largely unflappable.
Right.
It was adversity that it would hit them within games, and a lot of their wins were ugly. Pretty much every national champion, with the exception of like maybe 2019 LSU, has like some ugly wins over the year. Where you're like, I don't know how that happened. Texas had a couple of those the last couple of years, but they would never like get, overwhelmed. They were clearly overwhelmed in that game and looked overmatched. And then if you try to spin it forward, it's kind of like, how many games has Texas looked really good this year? They've had a good half in a couple games. They were, they played Ohio State actually very well. Like, looking back, that was not a bad game.
Right.
Their best game was against Oklahoma, I would say, and they had, I think, 3 points at the half. They did nothing offensively, and they turned it on late. Then against Vanderbilt, they totally collapsed defensively in the second half. So I just don't think this team is as good as we all thought they were coming out of that Georgia game.
Absolutely. And now, as we spin it forward, this is a really interesting and dangerous Arkansas team that comes out ahead, that comes up next. It's a team that's just starving for a win, and they call themselves the champions of almost, and they've almost won just about every game so far. How important is this matchup? Because it is very easy to look ahead at, hey, potentially if we go beat Texas A&M, there's an outside chance we're getting into the playoff, but also trying to take care of business against Arkansas. What do you make of this particular game as it relates to the bigger picture of Texas trying to fulfill their ultimate dream of going back to the college football playoff?
I don't think Texas should get in. I mean, if they beat A&M like 60-0 or something absurd,
right?
Maybe we'll have another discussion. But I remember talking to you guys last week and saying, I think there's little question at the end of the year Texas will be one of the 12 best teams in the country. With the getting to the playoff is a different discussion. But as I kind of look at this full picture for Texas, it's not encouraging to me how they played this season. And I don't see them beating Texas A&M. My score prediction for this week is like 37-34 or something, because the Arkansas defense is not great. But I mean, exactly. But the Arkansas offense compared to against this Texas defense could have a lot of success, especially because the Longhorns might be without Anthony Hill, their star linebacker, who for almost 3 years now, pretty much his entire time in Austin, the defense has run through Anthony Hill. Yeah. He's the leader of that group. They have other leaders back there like Michael Taft, who's back healthy. But if Anthony Hill is out and you're facing a dual threat guy like Taylor Green, that's a huge, huge loss for Texas. So Arkansas can come in. I think the team is focused on this matchup, and it's not as big a trap game as people think, even though it's sandwiched between Georgia and A&M. But I think that doesn't even matter, despite the fact that Texas is focused on it and everything. It's easily could be a one-possession game. That's what I expect it to be, and a high-scoring affair as they get set to face the Hogs this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it was a one-possession game because, as the lower third said, Arkansas has lost 6 one-possession games.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they have to be the best 2-win team in the country right now. There's just There's no debate. If you were to put Arkansas up against Purdue, I think Arkansas would win by like 40. And I don't even care about the SEC hypotheticals coming at me. That I don't care about that. But let's talk about Texas again here for a second, because I know we've been talking about Steve Sarkisian and the whole him trying to shut down all the coaching rumors and everything. But I mean, let's face it, this season feels like a waste coming in as the #1 overall team in the preseason. Arch Manning had all the Heisman hype, and you wonder where it went wrong. And we've seen this a couple times with a few coaches here this year. Now, I don't want to go down this path where it's like, oh, he's Billy Napier, oh, he's Hugh Freeze, but what led to their demise is them not wanting to give up play calling. And Sark is known for his offense, and Texas has had a bottom half SEC offense this year.
I would be stunned if Sark ever gave that up. He's talked about that before, and he's like, that's the reason I got hired, is because I'm a very good play caller. And I think that is what made Texas so good in the past couple of years, is because Quinn Ewers was safe. He was, I think, better looking back than people gave him credit for, but he was a limited quarterback. And Sark's offense really juiced up what he was able to do, and it's clearly been different this year. And while it has been a waste, you're right in the sense of like this team has not lived up to the billing. I think they've made unbelievable strides offensively, and Texas did not score much last week against Georgia, but that offense I think looked a lot better than the final score indicated. And to see where Arch Manning is now relative to the beginning of the year is incredible. I mean, he was atrocious for the first 5 games of the season, and then now watching him from a Texas perspective, would have so much confidence in his ability to remain calm, stay in the pocket when there's a hit. And I think that's him and Sark working together. And it's coming from a guy in Quinn Ewers, that was his 3rd year with Sark last year compared to Arch's first year. He's playing like a freshman. So I think the problem this year is, the offense was bad right away, but they just couldn't stomach it because the defense wasn't as dominant as everybody thought it was going to be. We thought it was going to be like a top 5 unit in the country, and it's been good. But the last 3 games, they've allowed 38, 31, and 35 points. That's their 3 highest totals of the season. So when the offense isn't explosive and the defense needs to be unbelievable, and it's been good, but this hasn't been great. And I think that's been a big key for Texas this season, not getting to where they want to go.
Absolutely. Steve Sarkisian knows a lot about Texas, knows a lot about Arkansas and this rivalry. And I think a lot of older Texas fans and older Arkansas fans remember this heated rivalry back in the day. Here is Sark on these 2 matchups.
Well, I don't know if they completely understand it all. We're fortunate. We have a visitor at practice every day in Ted Coy, so he gives them a great reminder of what this game meant in that era and some of those fantastic matchups, 1 versus 2, things of that nature. But when you have the break and the lull in the action, I think for so many of our players, what they know of a rivalry is what they've seen on TV or the games that they went to during recruiting. I know for some of our current players and our current staff members, we went to Arkansas in 2021, and that was not a very friendly welcome that we received that first time going there. And so we understand the magnitude of the rivalry that way. Obviously, going back last year was helpful for us. But at the end of the day, a lot of our younger players, they're going to get introduced to that rivalry quickly, when this ball gets kicked off Saturday. But it's a great game. I'm so glad that we get to play this game. So many times, over the last few years when people were talking about conference realignment, that with conference realignment, that so many of these rivalries kind of fell off and people aren't playing some of the great games that they played historically. Well, we picked 2 back up. And I think that sometimes that gets overlooked. And the fact that we're playing both of these rival games at the end of the season to go along with OU in the middle of the season, these are special opportunities that our players are going to remember for a lifetime. So we're going to embrace it. We're going to enjoy it, and we're going to fight our tails off, see how it goes.